The Islamic name for Satan and is referred to as the god of despair. He refused to worship man, and so God changed him into a djinn, and that's a demon in the Muslim world, and exiled him as his followers from heaven. So we see the similarity between this Iblis and Iblis. All you see is a letter, right? A difference, the L. What is the difference when you like trace the word, from all the translations in time and different cultures? So we also got the prophet Idris, which sounds very similar, who also is being related to Hermes and / Enoch, which we're going to get into how all these are starting to relate. Enoch, Thoth, Iblis, Idris, Hermes. Alright, so let's continue. Now throughout this video we're going to see a lot of images and symbolism, and it's going to be crazy. A lot of it's going to look crazy, and it's going to but before I do that, I would like to just remind you, now it says here, according to guess of Hermetism, right, or the knowledge that Hermes taught, that was the same as Thoth's, right, was a Hellenistic mysticism contemporaneous with the fourth gospel, and Hermes Trismegistus was the Hellenized reincarnation of Egyptian deity Thoth, the source of wisdom, who was believed to defy man through knowledge of gnosis or Gnosticism. Okay, so it says Quispel says it's not completely certain that there existed before and after beginning of the Christian era in Alexandria a secret society, akin to a Masonic lodge. Okay, Masonry, Masonic lodges. Alright, the members of this group called themselves brethren, were initiated through a baptism of the Spirit, greeted each other with a sacred kiss, celebrated a sacred meal, and read Hermetic writings as edifying treatises for their spiritual progress. You see, Hermetic writings. So now we're going to get into the Masons later on, right? But we're going to show a lot of images and symbolism. You're going to see where it has its origins, right? And not just Masons, right? But religions we talked about, right? So we're going to start going into the symbolism of the bird, and first we're going to talk about the phoenix, right? In Egyptian, the phoenix, and then we're going to go right into the peacock. And let's continue here. So it says here in Genesis 15:5-6. I guess it says the King James Version. It says, Abraham is told, look toward heaven and number the stars, if you are able to number them. Then he said to him, so shall your descendants be. And he believed the Lord, and he reckoned it to him as righteousness. The two versions of the Book of the Two Ways, both apparently composed at Middle Egyptian Hermopolis. Now, if you remember from the video 1, Hermopolis was the main place for the Thoth worship, Kemnu, right? Hermopolis for Hermes Trismegistus. It says here, it also included sections referring to an afterlife in which deceased commoners became stars in the sky, alongside the moon god Thoth. Again, moon god Thoth. Thoth was the ancient Egyptian god of learning and wisdom. Associated with the moon, he was called the Lord of Heavens. Lord of Heavens. If you remember, Lord was the title of the angelic beings. Beautiful of night and the silent being in various eras. It says here, Thoth also appeared in the Bible in the book of Job 38:36, which dates back to the 6th century or beyond. One finds the lines, who put wisdom into Twat? Who gave sex we understanding? I'm going to show you a different version here. And it says in the bottom here, in Job 38:36, a different version, who gives the Ibis wisdom? Or gives the rooster understanding? So see how they're referring to that word Twat as the Ibis. And remember, Thoth is portrayed as the Ibis in Egyptian mythology. And we continue here regarding the birds that Job mentions the Ibis. It says here, in his authoritative commentary on Job, Professor Marvin Pope writes about this as follows. J.G.E. Hoffman was probably right in taking Twat to refer to the god Thoth himself. The consonantal orthography corresponds rather closely to the form of the name that prevailed in the 18th dynasty, the Huti, when the worship of Thoth was at its peak and spread to Phoenicia. Thoth was regarded as both the heart and tongue of the great sun god Ra. Thoth was also called Tehuti, the measurer. The Greeks identified Thoth with the god Hermes, and they credited him with inventing astronomy and astrology, the sciences of numbers and mathematics, geometry, and the land surveying, medicine, and botany. Also, they believed he was the first to organize religion and government. Organize religion and government, you hear that? And to establish the rules concerning the worship of the gods. The rules concerning the worship of the gods, alright, Thoth. In the Book of the Dead, he is called the scribe of the mat, or just a scribe, another attribute, right? Scribe. Variants of his name are Techu, Techudi, Thoth, Tehuti, Tehuti, and again many others. So we're going to continue down here. It says Thoth is seen as the first Hermes and is often depicted as a man with the head of an ibis. Again, there you go, ibis. So Job 38 again says, who put wisdom into the ibis, or Thoth, right? Which is a wading bird with a long curved beak, it says here. The ibis is the Egyptian symbol for the heart. Okay, Egyptian symbol for the heart. And Thoth presides over the weighing of the heart ceremony, weighing individuals' true words, or the innermost intent in all of our thoughts and actions, determining who is admitted into heaven, much like the part of Saint Peter plays at the pearly gates. Okay, being related to Saint Peter. We're going to talk about this later on. Thoth is the final judge, and he embodies the rational powers of the sun and the intuitive, irrational energies of the moon again. So as we dig through Thoth and all his different personalities and epithets, you know, I just want to remind you, as it says here in Job, you know, who gives the ibis wisdom, or gives the rooster understanding? That means, you know, even though there's these hijacks, these falling angels, these gods, right? Who created them? You know, they all come from the Creator. Who gives them the wisdom? Who allows them to do all this order? Who, you know, He knows what He's doing, and He knows what He creates. So, who gives the ibis wisdom? Let's not forget that, or gives the rooster understanding, because we're gonna start seeing also Thoth being related to Enoch. All right, so, all right, let's continue. So again, we're just talking about, you know, Thoth, Tehuti, right? Tehuti, Thothus of Byblos, from the Phoenician precursor of Thoth, or the Greeks associated both these gods with Hermes, right? Thoth, also known as Thoth, Egyptian, right? Thoth in Phoenician, Hermes, again, Greek, and Mercury, Roman, right? He was the mortal, later deified. He was mortal, later deified, or deified, right? What does that mean? He was man, and then he became a god, who also becomes or walks with God after being mortal. That was Enoch, right? You're also going to hear about Idris, the prophet Idris. The same thing, being exalted to the Most High, to Allah, right? He walked with God as well. Alright, so let's continue. And he's a prominent leader, it says, of the Atlantean refugees in the Nile Valley. Okay, prominent leader of the Atlantean refugees. We know that about Thoth already from the first video. He is the Atlantean deity of literature, magic, healing, and most associated with civilization, just like Thoth. And all these have the same attributes, right? In Greek myth, Hermes is the grandson of Atlas. So you can start tracing where Hermes is coming from, right? And Atlas is one of these first kings of Atlantis, right? His sons reigned, right? And as it says here, is relating Hermes as one of his grandsons, Atlas, grandsons of Atlas by Atlantis, Maya. The Theban recension of the Egyptian topic of the dead quotes Thoth as having said that the Great Deluge destroyed a former world-class civilization. I am going to blot out everything which I have made. The earth shall enter into the waters of the abyss of Nun, the sea god, by means of the raging flood, and will become even as it was in the primeval time. Alright, so Thoth is saying this, just like this angel that appeared to Noah was telling Noah that was going to happen, right? So they prepared him. It says here, his narration of the catastrophe is related to the Edfu text, which locate the homeland of the primeval ones, of a great island that sank with most of its inhabitants during the Teb Sepi, or the first time. Only the gods led by Thoth. Who are these gods, right? Are these monarchs before the flood, the biblical monarchs? we'll see. Led by Thoth, escaped with 7 favored sages, right? It says Enoch is 7th from Adam. Remember, they lived